Getting up earlier and earlier is not a strategy. If you want something you've never had, you must do something you've never done. We just opened enrollment for the next Renegade cohort. Join us. Check it out, renegadeaccelerator.com.
From a product perspective, the biggest thing I wanted to change was that pads and tampons are not sustainable. Most pads take 500 to 800 years to decompose, and each maxi pad has enough plastic for 3 to 5 plastic bags. So our pads take 12 months to decompose, and they're fully biodegradable, plastic-free. They're more comfortable, but they work better.
I'm Amy Jo Martin. Welcome to the Why Not Now show. You know that thing you've been thinking about doing? Yeah, that one. Why not now? Have you ever actually taken the time to ask yourself, what's stopping me? Let's talk it through. This is your chance to give that idea the attention it deserves and take action. Each episode, I have a chat with a fascinating person, from entrepreneurs to athletes, celebrities, my parents, rocket scientists, and all walks of life. We talk through a critical time when they've asked themselves, why not now? We dissect that day or even that moment, step by step. All
right, let's talk. So we met at South by this year. We were at this dinner, and Nadya had me in tears laughing within the first 5 minutes, telling stories. And maybe if you're interested, would you like to start off with one of your marquee stories about TikTok and how you had spoken with your grandparents and had quite a day? And that can maybe open up some of, just not the symmetry here, some of the, there we go, the conversation about how you're approaching not only the company you're building, but your life. And 24 now. Grown. I have like a really good feeling about the world, knowing that it's like in the hands of people like this. I'm like, okay, we're gonna be okay. Let's start there. So you're telling the story at dinner. Let's just pretend we're at dinner.
Yeah, well, I guess we met in March, and I had got disowned by my grandparents in November. And, I think for me, I've been very open, to the world and on social media since I was 16. I started my career then with the first nonprofit, and when we had no money and social media was just starting to be a thing, the way I just kind of realized that social media was just telling a lot of stories. So I just, at an early age, became an absolute open book. And so I would talk about my vaginal discharge to the things that I was going through, to domestic violence and growing up with that, to being a survivor. And so I've always been really open on social media. And it wasn't until November when I really started talking about my larger family drama. And basically I raised my pre-seed round last year, got on TikTok and launched the company in June. I started posting 100 TikToks a day for 6 months, gained 2 million followers, and now I'm at 3.7 million followers. So I got into this habit for the year leading up to meeting you, where I was literally posting 100 times a day. And now I'm posting more 30 to 50 times a day. But I was just posting.
You're going to be this hour or whatever. You're going to be behind.
No, I only spend an hour or two on TikTok. I spend no more than 2 minutes on each video, and it's just churn. But for me, I just started sharing more and more on social media because then naturally, you're doing that. And for me, it was originally to start the company, and then I think I was telling you about how, I hadn't talked to my grandparents for 15 years. We reconnected. We had this really special bond going on. And then they discovered my social media, and they discovered that, yes, I was graduating from Harvard and on speaking tour and doing brand deals, but I was talking a lot about trauma and mental health, and I was showing my period blood, and I had millions of people knowing what color my period blood was. And so I got disowned for not being Chinese enough, and naturally, me and both my sisters, who are also content creators, we were in the car on the way to the airport early after getting disowned, making TikToks about it. And we got introduced to millions of people, mostly Asian American women and queer kids who also got disowned. So over the last few months, it's been really interesting because I think I've always really connected with other people with uteruses, like all menstruators, but really I think it was just a reminder before we met of like, wow, there's like a power in being really vulnerable, because I really identify with being disowned, and it's kind of like now a point of pride in many ways.
Wow, right? Like, where do we even start to unpack that? It's one of the things that I think struck me so much and I appreciate about you is that you can bridge serious topics with humor in a way that impacts quickly. Like, it just, you go straight there. So here you're telling us this story at dinner about the TikTok and how the door slammed or something, literally, and you and your sister had the video and it was perfectly timed. And you kind of knew it was going to happen. And it had to have been emotional at the time. But at the same time, you were almost using maybe social as your way of processing. I don't know. But the humor side, is that intentional?
I think it's like a survival mechanism. I think it's like, I'm very fortunate in many ways. And I think that I also recognize that so much of my passion comes from like a really deep sense of pain. And I think that for me, a huge part of my healing when I entered my career was realizing that a lot of those pain points also fed me with a lot of purpose, right? And I think that a lot of the things that I've experienced mental health-wise, feeling crazy a lot of the times, or struggling with, domestic violence, or, growing up with different things. I think for me, when I tell people and they're so uncomfortable, I just find it funny. And like, you get to a point in your therapy journey where you're not like crying from it, you're just kind of like, life is fucked. I just think I think for me, it's not, I don't find it funny. I don't find it funny. But I think that, like, in a lot of ways, I also recognize that a lot of these experiences brought me so much community. And the biggest ways that I find that community feels like we're healing or we're bonding is just when we're, like, rolling on the floor laughing. Yeah.
Word. Seriously. Okay, so
I'll also say that, like, it's the nature of the work that I do, right? Like,
you're not following it. You probably are now.
It's periods.
It's periods.
I have my clear bag so I can show off my period products.
Which we did have some shipped.
They're
and they haven't
coming.
arrived yet. They're here in the morning for everyone. We're going to talk about August in a minute. So you had told me, and I was surprised, but now it makes more sense. You really struggled with confidence, or just really fully showing up, right? So this is not your normal, you didn't grow up as this extrovert socialite, right? This is a new thing for you to embrace social and be an open book in this way.
Well, actually, I get asked this a lot. Like, I get asked, like, how did you find your confidence and all that? And I think, like, yeah, people look at me and they think that I'm very extroverted, and they think that I'm very, like, I'm really confident. But honestly, like, I still think I struggle with that more now than ever before. Like, so I have diagnosed borderline personality disorder, which basically means that imposter syndrome to like a crippling degree, and like hating myself and, feeling really guilty is like part of my diagnosis. And I think that in many ways, like, I am a functional depressed person where I'm kind of teetering on this sometimes dangerous edge of like feeling so much purpose in my work and loving what I do, but then also only identifying with my work. So when my laptop closes, I just feel like a crumbling piece of shit, So I think that for me, like, I and I think about this a lot with social media because I get death threats every day. And I've had death threats and rape threats since I was 19 and I ran for public office. And I had run and I accidentally became like the youngest Asian American to run for public office, and like it was right after Trump was elected, so there was like a lot of hate. And for me, I think that a lot of people see the comments that I get, or they hear what I go through and they're like, how can you even keep going? And I kind of realized that I think my BPD has strengthened me in the sense that nothing any hater can say is worse than what I've already said to myself at some point. And I think that once I kind of realized that, it was a little bit of like, well, fuck it, I'm just gonna be myself. But it was also like, I'm not doing this for those haters. I'm doing this for the people who, maybe find the content empowering. And I'm still like a pretty big introvert. Like I've been here for like 24 hours, and I've just
been looking for.
I've just been like working and writing and like working on my manuscript, and like I make a bunch of videos every day, but I'm alone with a phone screen. Like it's the most isolating thing you can ever do. And so I kind of thrive in that environment.
Okay, so can we go back real quick to you're 16, right? You started the nonprofit, and then you started your first company. You're on your second company, right? Well, third. And you ran for public office at 19. So when you look at the journey and what you just shared, how did you figure that all out and get to today? Meaning, it feels like when we've discussed, whether on the podcast or at dinner, you've arrived at a much more comfortable self-awareness as well as acceptance place. Can you tell us a few key points on how that happened? Because that's a lot.
Yeah, well, I'd say that like none of my career was planned out. Like I started this nonprofit because I was passionate about period poverty. My family was experiencing housing instability, so the idea of like what are basic necessities were at top of my mind. And then I found out that in 2014, not only was period poverty a really big issue, and I, looking around and not seeing enough conversation about it, but at the time, 40 states in the US had the tampon tax, which is a sales tax on period care, considering them luxury items. Meanwhile, products like Rogaine and Viagra are medical necessities. And it was just like that, like things like the tampon tax and the issue where it was just like, so what the fuck, like this is ridiculous. And I think that kind of like passion has always been in me. And now I'm 8 years into this work, and I don't think my mission has changed at all. And we just closed up our seed round, and when we were raising, people kept asking like, well, did you know you were gonna start a brand and all this stuff? And I was like, no, absolutely not. Like I did this nonprofit for 6 years, and through it kept evolving because I was learning more. We started distributing period care, and then I was frustrated because I was like, we can only make long-term change if we pass policies. So then we were passing policies. Then it was like, we need something more substantial. We need to make a statement that we're here. So I wrote this book, and then the book came out, and then I was on book tour, and then it was like, oh, now I'm getting hit up by companies. I'm going to start this agency, and we built this consulting agency, and Procter & Gamble and Unilever were like our biggest clients, and I was, basically consulting this whole $52 billion industry on period care, like, this is how we're going to change, this is how we need to be better, this is how we're going to make an impact. And then I just was kind of stuck in this like nonprofit industrial complex and working as a consultant where I was frustrated every day because I was like, wow, if I had my own brand, I would do everything differently. We'd have better product and be bolder and be social. And I think I just kind of got to like a place where I was like, okay, I'm going to start this new thing. But you're totally right. I think that for me, like it has not been an easy journey. And I think I really had to learn a lot of like balance and self-awareness the hard way. Because again, I've always been really ambitious and I've always been really motivated, but for many years, where my motivation came from was not a healthy place. Because I had BPD, I felt worthless, so then I was looking to work for self-worth. And then I wasn't sleeping because I loved work. And then I wasn't eating because I was working. And then I was, even junior, senior year of high school, I was building the nonprofit, I was working on this other nonprofit that failed. I was head of 16 different clubs. I was pre-professional ballet. I was the only girl on the boys' varsity baseball team. I was like so overcommitted. And I was just working because I had such bad PTSD And so anytime I stopped working and I stopped distracting myself, I'd have a panic attack, or I'd have a flashback, or I wouldn't sleep, and I had insomnia related to the PTSD, so I was like working. And I think it was really hard to work through because publicly I was getting so much external validation that of course was so addicting, right? I was being held up by national press, I was getting social media, I was making money, then I was the breadwinner of my family when I was like 16. So like it was all this external validation. So for me, publicly I was, really killing it. But then privately, I was like at the emergency room every couple months for exhaustion. And I wasn't the best leader. I didn't have any friends. I was like barely doing school. And then I was like on a plane 1 to 3 times a day. COVID hit, and then I went to rehab. So I went to rehab for 6 weeks and did therapy for 8 hours a day. And like, it kind of caught up to me. Like, I think that in 2020, a lot of like girl bosses were being torn down on social media, and I was one of them. And when it was happening to me, I was like, fuck this, like they're jealous, whatever. And then I kind of got to a point where I was like, maybe what they're saying is really valid. Like I've been a workaholic, and so many of the things that I've maybe been showing as an example is not the healthiest thing that I want to be. But for me, it was like I didn't have any self-awareness because it was so glorified. Like I came into my career at the height of hustle culture and, this girl boss messaging that was the patriarchy sucks, so we have to work 10 times as hard, and we take pride in that.
It's a badge of honor.
And it's a badge of honor, like how little you sleep.
Exhaustion.
Yeah, and like, I think it took a lot.
See how many heads are going like this? It's fascinating. It's so the level of self-awareness you have at your age, man. Whew, it's incredible, and thank you for sharing.
We're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back. Renegades, we just opened up enrollment for the next Renegade cohort. This is our 11th one. We are so excited because we have women all over the world in every single industry, in every sector, female leaders, executives, entrepreneurs, you name it. And the amount of leverage, the amount of intellectual capital being exchanged is pretty incredible. Head to renegadeaccelerator.com. You can apply. We will explore together if this is a good fit. And you might have been tracking over the years, but some things have changed and grown. Renegade is equal parts education, collaboration, and accountability. We are fiercely committed to each other's goals. This is not an empowerment group. That is table stakes. This is about leverage. This is about education. And this is about action. We started originally with a focus on personal brand and thought leadership. Well, that's continued, and it will always continue. And what's happened is we've been able to get more women spots on stages, public speaking, and getting paid to do so, as well as more women seats on cap tables, investing, and seats on boards, because that's where the power and the influence resides. And we're democratizing not only access to deal flow and the flow of capital, but also providing education in areas of wealth creation, in areas of publishing, and again, public speaking that really change the game so you can live the life that you want and get the most out of your days. Getting up earlier and earlier is not a strategy. We are all about reinventing our relationship with time and money. When we build our presence, our personal brand, both online and offline, we are able to get more out of our 24 hours in a day because our presence is present in places when we are not. So in a way, we're able to scale ourselves, which is pretty incredible because that makes your actual presence even more valuable. So you can land and demand even more money when you show up. And it's not just about money, but there's a lot of influence and power that comes along with that. And there's a lot of optionality to spend your time how you want when you are generating more income. So you're able to make a bigger impact. And that's what we're all about.
I have to share, it's kind of embarrassing. I asked Nadya, I was like, so with August, which we're going to have you give us a breakdown, her actual company, I said, So what's your thought? Are you thinking you'll get bought by a strategic in a few years? You know, maybe P&G or something? And she looked at me, and that's like a 43-year-old comment. The 24-year-old said, "Oh, hell no. We're not letting them buy us. Like, they're the ones that caused a lot of this problem, right?" And I just loved how committed you are to the bigger picture, right? Because you're making a dent regardless with the product. We're going to talk about it. But there is a level of commitment in your DNA that's tangible. That's pretty rad. So tell us about August.
So yeah, I mean, basically kind of the journey was really like spending a few years, you know, with everything I was doing about periods, but from a few different angles. And I think that the biggest things that I wanted to focus on was sustainability, making a super fun, empowering social period brand. But I think also at the same time, I had really focused all my academic career on studying and criticizing capitalism. And so for me, I think a lot...
The actual major you can do?
Well, sociology, but now at progressive institutions, it's fuck capitalism.
At Harvard.
But I think...
Major in that.
But for me, I think that I kind of got to a point where I was like working in the nonprofit space, and I think nonprofits are so vital, and social movements are so vital. But it's hard, right? And like, I think I kind of got to a point where I was like, I don't think I'm making the biggest impact I can from here when I have no resources, and I'm begging the biggest corporations that I'm trying to get to change for funding to stay afloat. And so for me, I kind of really started teaching myself about like, what is venture capital? And like, what is purpose-driven capital? And like, what are social enterprises? I think from a product perspective, the biggest thing I wanted to change was that pads and tampons are not sustainable. Most pads take 500 to 800 years to decompose, and each maxi pad has enough plastic for 3 to 5 plastic bags. So our pads take 12 months to decompose, and they're fully biodegradable, plastic-free. They're more comfortable, but they work better. They're leak-proof. We use a super absorbent polymer that actually like locks in the liquid, so there's no reason for you not to switch to them, and we try to push our pricing to be competitive, so like it's the easiest change you can make. From like a messaging standpoint, I think all the things that I cared so deeply about in terms of how we talk about periods, now I have the capital and the support to be able to run with, right? Like, we are a gender inclusive period care company. We are all about supporting trans menstruators and, you know, menstruators with disabilities, and being really open about the fact that we are going to be unapologetically gender inclusive. And even that alone was something that I spent years fighting to try to get the bigger brands to do. And it was like pulling teeth, and because, you know, it's fear of lost revenue or whatever. And then the last thing was the impact side, which is like, I think a lot of why I wanted to start a company was like, I hate grant writing. I hate fundraising. But if I fundraise, but it's for a pre-seed or a seed round, then we can create a model that to me is really about like using consumerism and capitalism to fuel impact, right? And, you know, I think I've always been really, my last company, I was chief brand officer at a Gen Z marketing agency that grew really, really big. It was basically a bunch of 20-year-olds who were making like so much money. We had no idea what we were doing.
Like McKinsey would hire you, right? And say, hey, come teach us about this stuff.
But it was like, we were so big, and we were like, oh, it was really, really exciting and really great. But I think behind the scenes, it was just like, ugh, like I just am not values aligned with what we're doing. You know, like we're just helping these people that I don't even agree with, like make more money and like woke wash. And I still support the company. I think that they've been a lot better. But I think for me, it's been like, okay, I was so done with the consulting side. I think it's needed. But basically, like I kind of got to a point where I was like, wow, like if we just take all the things we've tried and been pushed for and just created our own thing, it would be amazing. So we created just this sustainable, impactful brand. We raised $2 million. We launched in June. And because of TikTok, which I was not on TikTok before, and we got the whole team on it, it just kind of went crazy. And it's been really beautiful and really fun. And yeah, I'm really excited for it.
I mean, wow. And wow. Yeah. One question, then I want to open it up, because we could go so many different areas here, and I want to know what everybody's interested in. What have you done today for your mental health?
Okay, so my biggest thing, like my biggest accomplishment over the last 2 years is that I sleep 8 to 10 hours a night.
Yeah.
And I slept 12 hours last night.
Yes.
So that's my biggest accomplishment. Well, I really think that like a lot of because I get asked and criticized publicly a lot for like, how can you say you're critical of capitalism and then be a venture-backed CEO? And I'm like, yeah, okay, I know. But a lot of the reasons that I'm motivated to do what I do is because I think capitalism has created so much of the inequality that we see today. And I do not think capitalism and consumerism are going anywhere, right? Like Gen Z are the most critical of capitalism. They're also the biggest loyal customers of Amazon, you know? And like, that is the paradox that we live in, right? We're like, we need to fight for climate change, but no, I'm not gonna pay for a sustainable thing that's more expensive or takes a little bit more work. So for me, I think that a lot of like my critique of capitalism is like all of that, but I do think fundamentally, like when you get down to it, like the patriarchal, capitalistic world that we live in is really about diminishing the value of a human life to be for utility. And so for me, I feel that individually, especially as women, the biggest thing of resistance that I can do is to sleep as much as fucking possible. So that's what I do.
Yeah, wow, okay. Amazing. We're gonna open it up to questions. Thank you so much for being here. This is enlightening. Okay, what do we have? I can't see. Oh,
You're Amanda.
Amanda.
Hi. You are so impressive. Oh my God, I just love listening to you. I think what you're doing is amazing. So I have a two-part question. First is how are you guys making 100 TikToks a day? My sister and I own a scaling business, and I think our goal is 3. Yeah. So I really would love to know how many team members you have on that, and how you're actually making that happen. And then I have a two-part question for you.
Okay, so I make a lot a day. The team, we have 2 people on. And basically, like now, even like I'm consulting a bunch on the side, and they always come to me with this question, like, how do we make so many TikToks? And I'm like, dude, the thing that works on TikTok are the things that take the least amount of time and are the most authentic and unfiltered possible. So it's the best platform because your cost of acquisition is really low. But a lot of it is just being really unfiltered. And I think also being with the trends. Like the biggest mistake I think a lot of brands make is that they see a trend and then they like go brainstorm about the trend. Then they we see you out there, we know that they like draft it and then they approve it, and then like in the 20 minutes even that have gone by, that's no longer a trend. Yeah. And I'll show you. Just for shits and giggles. Like I will show you, let me see, I can think of, you know the don't sell marijuana to my husband. Do you know that trend?
Yes.
Okay, watch.
I don't even have TikTok. This is marijuana.
So this is how fast it takes, right? So if I'm like, every trend is like something good, something bad. So when I tell my team, I'm like, look, I need you to make 20 TikToks a day. I'm like, they can all be about this one sentence, which is, this industry is good, bad, we are good, right? Or haters are telling me this, so I'm gonna do that. Like, it is the most simple thing. So like this don't sell marijuana to my husband, I can be like, wait, look, we can do it, ready? Do not sell marijuana to my husband. And then, I can even mouth it right. You're just like super unfiltered. And then I can be like this. And I'm like, and then I'm just like, okay, what is the thing that people hate on me for, the thing that people are gonna like rally behind me for? And so I'll be like, okay, people are saying, don't bring your show period products in public. And then it's me being, okay, that's it. And so then I will just put that text on and click post. So it takes like 30 seconds. And so once you start like trending TikToks are the best because it's like, oh, that's how it's the format is all there for you. And so that's how, I try to make 50 a day now. And my amount of time on my phone has gone down since I started TikTok.
That's incredible. My second part is, you don't have to answer this question, but something maybe just to think about, because I am so impressed with what you're doing, and I really do hope you change the world. I think it's so important. I did not know what you just said about maxi pads having that much plastic. I think plastic is a we all think plastic is a major, major, major problem. But I hear you talking about all of the people that major corporations like P&G forgot, and making sure that you are being a person that is gender inclusive. Are you thinking about how you're going to get all the people that are using their products that are loyal over to you? Or how do you get the mom in Iowa that's not on TikTok? Because I think everyone needs to use what you're doing. So not something you have to answer, but
I love this question.
Okay, something to think about, because I hope you get them. I hope you get all women and not just the new group, because all of the, there's still a entire different group of people that are still going to be putting that plastic into the world if they're not touched by your gift. I do think you're gifted.
Thank you. Well, I mean, I think that I do not believe that P&G has forgot or is not aware of the need to be gender inclusive. I think they're actively deciding to not be gender inclusive. For me, I think it's like, I know that our product is by far better in terms of efficacy and more sustainable. And we will never compromise on that. The same way we will never compromise on not being gender inclusive. So do we get a lot of hate? Do we get a lot of people who are super transphobic about it? Yeah. But for me, I'm like, I know you might eventually switch to the product because it's better and it's the best option out there. In terms of how we reach it, that's the beauty of how we grew, like now we can go to Target and Walmart because we're big enough. And I think that was the beauty of creating a consumer brand, which is like, okay, we're small and mighty. And I think a lot of people meet me or they see me online and they think that I'm just like the influencer face of the brand, but I am so nerdy about the metrics, and I think that's why we've always been more successful, because if TikTok did not return, I would not do it. I'm not in it for the money. I'm not in it to be famous. I'm not in it to be recognized. Those are fun, but for me, I'm doing it because my cost of acquisition is $4 and the industry has never seen that. I'm in it because I want 40% month over month growth, and I want the numbers and the metrics that the industry hasn't seen before. And for me, I think that we had to achieve a level of success and proof of concept, so now we can expand our distribution channels and we can expand and hire the right people so that we can meet the people who've never made a social media account. And I think that is a part of the power and why every brand is trying to reach Gen Z, though, because it is the cheapest and biggest customer base that also are the ones setting trends. And so, honestly, the biggest percentage, the biggest demographic of people who are actually buying from August are over the age of 35, because those menstruating kids are getting their moms and their mom's friends all to convert to our product. So they're our biggest champions for the whole household.
That's awesome. It's a great question too. I think we're open to answer it. Any other questions?
Hi. You're the shit, so. Great. I'm Danielle, nice to meet you. We've been having, a couple of us have been having a conversation. I resonated so much with what you said about the concept of working your ass off, right? I like my ass. I would like to keep it. The shift from that grind. Talk to us a little bit about how you work smarter, not harder, and what that shift has kind of done for you. I think it's a really important message, and it's something a lot of us in the room have not seen and are trying to change the tide on that. So it's awesome to see that resonate with you.
Great question.
Yeah. Well, I will say that I had to learn the hard way, right? I mean, I was on speaking tour for 3 years, and I remember we would always get asked the question, how do you maintain balance? How do you rest? And everybody would be talking about burnout. I'm like, that's not me. They burned out, but I'm not gonna burn out. And then I burned out, real hard. And I looked around me and I was like, I have no friends. I'm not talking to my family. My family is the most important thing in the world. I haven't talked to them in a year. And, all of these breakups keep happening because I keep choosing my career. And my health was bad. I had to really learn the hard way. And I'm not to say I'm not grinding now, but I think a lot of it was just and maybe it's not the best thing, because I think a lot of, when I don't want to go to sleep because I have more work, I train myself to know, but my biggest power is that I'm well rested and I can be so much more effective. And the biggest thing for me is that I'm so much happier, And for me, when I was working a lot and, not sleeping, I did it remember any of that because I was so exhausted and dissociated. Like, I still look at pictures from like 2017 to 2019, and I'm like, I see myself on that stage, but I don't remember, like, I don't have any memory of that. And I don't remember meeting these people. And I don't like inherently have those memories. And that's just such a really awful way to live. And for me, once I started feeling like, okay, when I take care of myself, when I'm going to therapy once a week, when I'm on the right medication, when I'm saying no to things I don't want to do, when I'm sleeping 8 to 12 hours a night, like, I'm so effective and I get everything done. And when I have that confidence and feeling of self-worth, I'm really good at delegating. So I can build the right teams around me. And then I attract more qualified people to work with me because nobody wants to work with a frazzled, exhausted entrepreneur because it just stresses you out. I think another thing was, like, when I was like an exhausted, tired, toxic girl boss, all the people I would be around were the same. And like, I despised them because I left every one of those interactions feeling more tired. And I think I started to realize, like, wow, that is, if I don't like that, like, I'm worse, you know? So I think for me, it was like, the more and more I realized that taking care of myself and also making sure that the people who worked with me were taking care of themselves and that had unlimited PTO and that we took days off and take a day off if you're on your period. Like, the more we pushed the rest, the more love and passion for the work there was, which unlocked so much success, right? So, like, it's kind of hard because I wish I could say, oh, I basically realized that professional success is not as important, you know? But in reality, like, that's just not what I was conditioned to believe. That is something I will keep trying to dismantle in myself. But right now, I know that my professional success is emboldened by taking care of myself. And I would also say, like, for me, like, because I'm more balanced in this way, I am much faster with my work. So I'm able to do, like, 3 careers at once and to do all these things and podcasts and books and everything. And part of it is because, like, I just have so much energy, which is great.
It is great. It's amazing. And what can we do to support you?
Try August.
You got
I'm really excited because one thing I worked a lot on the nonprofit side was, like, convincing workplaces and schools and any building to stock August in restrooms. And so that's what I'm really excited about, like, working with other, like, female entrepreneurs. Is like, if you don't have period products in your bathroom, like, we'll work with you. If your whole, you know, university campus doesn't have period care, like, we'll work with you. So I've been able to really continue a lot of that advocacy work. So yeah, try August.
For sure, absolutely. Yeah. You are a bright, bright light. You're such a renegade. We are grateful. Thank you for sharing your time and wisdom. It's incredible, absolutely incredible. So thank you.
Hey everyone, thanks for listening to the show. Hit me up on social media to let me know what you think. I'm at Amy Jo Martin on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And I want to hear your Why Not Now moments so I can share them on the show. Just send me a note to whynotnow@amyjomartin.com. For show notes and other offers, you can visit amyjomartin.com/whynotnow. And while you're there, don't forget to sign up for my email newsletter for exclusive content and announcements. A big thanks to Rock Salt Music for all of the tunes by the talented John Coggins. And of course, a hat tip to Richard Brewer for editing and producing the show. I'll see you next time. And until then, why not now? Hi, everyone. If you are digging this podcast, please do us a favor and subscribe, rate, and review on iTunes. It just takes a moment and it means a ton to us.